Hello, this is the 2013 Suzuki Spacia Custom TS. It's all registered with the DVLA now, so I'm just about to list it for sale, and in the usual way I'm making a video to show you around it and introduce it to you in a bit more detail. So the Spacia line was introduced by Suzuki in 2013, the year this came out, and it was the replacement for the Suzuki pallet which came before it. That's pallet as in artist's pallet, by the way, not as in the thing you would lift up with a forklift truck. This is a K car, meaning it's limited in physical size and engine size in terms of cc and also power output by the government in Japan in exchange for preferential ownership and running costs. The Spacia lineup is the familiar story of standard and custom lines. Familiar to me at least, but in case you haven't seen any of my other videos, I'll go through it here in brief. So the Spacia is available in a standard line and the Spacia custom line. It's available with two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and it's available with or without a turbocharger. The spec goes in increasing list price G, X, and then T variants, the T meaning turbo. That's in the standard line, and then in the custom line you have GS, XS and TS. This is the TS, so this is the top spec in terms of it being turbocharged. It's two-wheel drive. I don't tend to buy the four-wheel drive versions of these K cars unless people particularly ask me to, because in a lot of cases it's extra weight, and it also means the car is more likely to have been driven in a part of Japan where they use salt on the roads. The Spacia line continues today. It's expanded quite a lot. So there's the Spacia standard line, there's the Spacia custom line, then there's also the Spacia gear and the Spacia base, which is designed to compete against Honda's N-Van, I guess. They're all hybrids. This is a mild hybrid, and I'll show you the battery and talk a little bit more about what that means as we go through the video. Now, you may find yourself thinking, if you've looked into cars like this quite a lot, you may say, well, I've seen that, and I'm sure it had a Mazda badge on it, Andrew, and you'd be right. So Suzuki make K cars for Mazda as well. This is a Suzuki Spacia Custom, but if it had a Mazda badge on the front, it would be a Mazda Flare wagon. So yeah, there's a sort of parallel lineup with Mazda cars, or with different names as well. Let's have a look around the outside first of all in the usual way. So it looks black. The official colour is bluish black pearl. In the right light you can just get a hint of blue. I'm not sure whether that will come across on camera. So we start looking at the front here first of all. You may notice just to the left and above that yellow sticker on the windscreen. We've got a little camera there for the or sensors for the collision avoidance braking. The headlights look really nice on these. I will confess that I've given them a polish up and re-lacquered them, but they do look absolutely superb. I hope you'll agree. They're HID headlights. And we've got quite a nice, it's got, excuse the flies, they've got quite a nice look to it. So on the side lights, this is an LED ring round here, and then we've got an LED bar all across the front, and then obviously the same LED ring on that side. Front fogs, as you can see. "15-inch alloy wheels with a matching set of Bridgestone tyres, which are in really nice condition, plenty of tread left on those. Monsoon shields. Power sliding doors on both sides. I leave them switched off, but for the purposes of the video I will switch them on so we can control them there. I was just going to demonstrate them from here for you. So, I've got two keys. There they are, and if I just press and hold the button, there we go. Press and hold it again. As with an awful lot of the K cars with sliding doors, if they don't have power doors, or if the power doors are switched off, they still have this soft close or this close assist feature. So if you've slid the door closed but you haven't quite done it enough, it'll do that just to bring it in and finish off the closing. That can be particularly useful if you don't have power doors, or if they're switched off and the car is parked facing up a hill, because then the door, you have extra weight to sort of slide forward, so it can be particularly helpful for that. So used to have two reversing lights, one here and one in the equivalent place on the other side. I've converted that one into a fog light. Let's just show you that. There we go. Quite nice LED side lights down there, and then obviously the fog light just there. It's beeping to tell you that you've left the lights on, in case that wasn't obvious. All right, let's have a little look under the bonnet. Just put the camera back on the tripod. So this is Suzuki's R06A engine. It's a cracking engine in my opinion, and very popular in the Suzuki K lineup. So you'll find this engine in, as well as the whole of the Spacia range, you find it in the K version of the Jimny, the Wagon R, the Alto, the newer Carries, and all of the Spacias that I mentioned earlier as well. So really popular engine. I'll tell you a little bit about it. So it's a 658cc 3-cylinder petrol engine with 12 valves, timing chain, so no belt to worry about. On the turbocharged versions like this, it comes with variable valve timing on the intake valves, and the naturally aspirated versions get dual variable valve timing. Now, another car that you'll find this engine in, which I thought was quite interesting, if you'll permit me a small diversion, nothing to do with Japan, nothing to do with K cars, but the other car you'll find this engine in is the Caterham 7. So there are versions of the Caterham 7 available with this engine in. And why am I telling you this? Well, I'm telling you this because in the Caterham, this produces 84 horsepower, and I wrote it down, 116 Newton meters of torque. So this goes back to the point I mentioned earlier in the video about K cars being limited in power output by government regulations in Japan, because in this Spacia that you have before you today, it produces 64 horsepower and 100 Newton meters of torque. Also noteworthy, I thought, was that even though these are really light cars, in fact that's what K is short for, Keijidosho, which is light car, the Caterham weighs probably about half what this weighs, so that would explain why you get substantially better performance out of the Caterham. But yeah, just an interesting little aside, I thought. Let's tell you what I've done in terms of getting this one ready for sale then. So obviously, well, I hope it's obvious because I say it with every car, it's had the engine oil and oil filter changed. That's really important in my view because, well, a lot of people aren't going to service the car just before they put it into auction. Some do, but often they don't. And the second reason is, even if they have, the car's had a long period of start, stop, and it's never really been allowed to warm up properly. So that's not very good for the oil. So every car that I import gets an oil change. Engine air filter has been done on this as well, as have the spark plugs. In terms of the transmission, You know, if you've watched a few of my videos, very rare for a transmission to escape a service unless it's quite clear from stickers around the car that it's just been done, which does happen sometimes. But this one's had transmission fluid changed and also the 2 filters in the transmission changed as well. These top mounts on K cars are quite prone to the rubber becoming brittle, and then you get some play in them, so they've been done. And the steering rack has been refurbed on this one as well. I mentioned, if you saw one of the previous videos on the Daihatsu Tanto, I mentioned that had been done, and that was quite a common thing to need to be done on these K cars. And same again on this one. The just a little bit of play in the passenger side end of the rack, so that's been refurbished. And then obviously after we do that, we do a wheel alignment as well, so it's had the wheel alignment done too. Passed the MOT with no advisories, and as I said earlier, it's all registered and ready to go. Okay, let's move on. Let's have a look at the inside then. As we go past the mirrors, I should mention that they fold automatically when you lock the car. So the keys are in my pocket, I can lock it from that button there. And there they go. And then I can also unlock it from the button on the key, obviously, which I will do now. Now they don't unfold straight away when you unlock, but when I start up, as we'll do shortly, you'll see that they will unfold at that point. Let's have a look at the door first of all. So plenty of storage in the doors, a cup holder, and then 2 tiers of storage. Separate tweeters and woofers for the stereo in the front on these. The tweeters just up there. Always nice to see some stickers from previous oil changes, including the formidable sounding sludgeonizer. So window controls there, this piano black on the handles, which looks lovely. It's a bit of a pig to keep clean, but it does look nice when it is clean. Auto up and down for the windows for the driver, and then standard controls for the remainder. You can fold the mirrors from the button there, and then you can adjust the position of them there. That's to stop the rear windows being operated if you want to, if you've got children in the back or something and you want to stop them fiddling. So the driver's seat is adjustable for height. The passenger seat isn't. That's fairly standard across K cars. Really nice fabric on these, this sort of checker pattern, and then the harder wearing fabrics on the edges of the seat. Down here then we've got, this one's got idle stop or start stop, and we can switch it off there if we wish. We can open the doors there, switch off the collision avoidance braking there, front fogs and rear fogs. Keyless starting as well, as I said. Another cup holder there. The leather on these Suzuki steering wheels is really prone to cracking, and the top surface just comes away. In fact, I don't even know if it is real leather or not. This is real leather now because, as I mentioned earlier, I had this recovered because it looked a right old mess. Some people put steering wheel covers on and I think they affect it, and then I think hand cream, sun cream, etc. affects it too. So brand new, feels really nice. It's a great job. I didn't do it, but it is a very good job. So we have indicators on the right, as always, with automatic headlights, wipers on the left, traction control off there, and then that's the switch to disable the rear power sliding doors. Again, if you have people fiddling with them that you don't want to be fiddling, you can switch them off there. 3 pedals down here, so this is the parking brake. Press it on like that, and then a click down and release, and it's off again like that. Some storage under here, more storage in there, accessory socket there. Automatic climate control. I realise I never explain what that means. Maybe it's obvious, but in case it isn't, it means that you set the temperature and then the car heats or cools accordingly, as whether it needs to get hotter or colder to reach the temperature that you've set. CVT automatic transmission. Low means it's an extra low gear for extra engine braking when you're going down a steep hill. And we've got a button on the side there for sport mode, which just changed changes the shifting characteristics, or the programming, I guess, because there's no gears to shift in a CVT, of the so the programming of the engine computer and the transmission computer to prioritize acceleration a little bit over fuel consumption. Probably start it up at this point actually. So foot on the brake, keys are in my pocket as I said, and you can see that light there comes on, the green light, when it's ready to go. So two things happened there, as well as the engine starting. Firstly, the mirrors folded out. Secondly, the lady spoke to us from that little speaker up there. These are TV aerials, by the way, in case you're wondering. They don't work in this country, unfortunately. So the lady spoke to us, reminding us to put our ETC card in. ETC stands for electronic toll collection, and in Japan, as you're driving along, if you do a lot of driving on the larger roads, the motorways, the toll roads, then it's much quicker to have a special credit card to collect the tolls automatically, rather than having to fumble around for change or get your own card out, etc. So we'll see this in a bit more detail when we go on a test drive. I think the central large gauge with the two smaller ones either side looks really good. And you'll see every other gradation round here is coloured blue, and they change colour in the familiar fashion according to how fuel efficient your driving is. So if you're driving really economically, they will go green. If you're booting it, they'll go back to this blue colour. The climate control turns on like that. You may well have heard the AC compressor just kicking in, and you set the temperature according to what you want like that. I'm going to turn it off again because the noise of the fan will mess up the audio on the video. So head unit here, a few things to say about this. In terms of our options, then we can have FM or AM. The FM frequency range is slightly different in Japan to ours over here. That means that you can tune stations at the lower end of our FM range. If you want the full range, then you can just take the stereo out and fit a band expander. DVD or CD, music catcher, where it can save music from a CD onto an SD card. You can just plug an SD card in directly as well. There's the TV, which unfortunately doesn't work, and then Bluetooth audio as well. So you can connect your phone, and anything you can listen to on your phone, including navigation instructions, you can have on here. Doesn't have the full Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, unfortunately, but yes, you can have all the audio from your phone on here. And in terms of where do you put the CD, you put it in there. Oops, audio off, that's what I was trying to find. Let's have a look at the passenger side. Now then, if you like to travel with plenty of tissues at hand, you may be thinking, what on earth is he talking about? But go with me. If you like to travel with plenty of tissues on hand, then this is definitely the car for you. I thought about saying that at the start of the video, and I thought, no, that's kind of diminishing what the car has to offer to its incredible tissue storage capability, which is unfair because it has a lot more to offer than that. But yes, I can only assume maybe that the person who designed the interior had recently become a parent, or maybe they'd recently acquired a particularly dribbly dog or something, and they decided that 2 tissue carrying facilities were required. What on earth am I talking about? Well, we'll come to it in a sec. Let's just tell you about the more everyday stuff. So double storage pockets on the passenger side, another cup holder there, another cup holder there. Okay, let's go for the tissues, shall we? So in here, oh yes, look at that, your quick draw tissue storage number 1. Storage space there. The traditional glove box there, that's where you'll replenish your tissues. This car comes with a set of books, as well as the 2 keys that I've shown you already. It's upside down. There we go. I love these little touches, like the smiley face on the eye of Spacia. That's the ETC toll card reader that I mentioned earlier. So I leave these in. They're completely useless in the UK, but I leave them in because a lot of people tell me that they really like them. If you wanted to take it out and stop it talking to you, you certainly could, but I have had more people ask to leave them in than to take them out, which is why I don't. Bag hook there for some takeaway food or whatever with a 2 kilo limit. But what about the other tissue storage, I hear you ask? Well, look at this. So if that isn't enough, maybe someone in the back needs a tissue and they want to reach forward and they can't reach that one, then you've got your second option just there. Sun visors here with illuminated mirrors. My other half would be very pleased about that. Same on that side. So even after the high of the dual tissue storage areas, we have more interest in terms of storage in this car. And if you saw the Hustler video, you might know what I'm about to show you. Little tab here, lift that up like that. And then we have an occasional shopping basket bag carrier. Underneath there we'll see the clearly labelled lithium ion battery. So this is a mild hybrid, as I said. That means that it doesn't have an electric motor to drive the car, but it can do regenerative braking, and it can use the energy generated from the regenerative braking to run various electrical features on the car. Let's move on to the rear of the car. I've switched them on, so I may as well use them. There we go. Again, the factory mats, forgot to mention in the front, it's a full set of factory mats. Continue in the back, really nice condition. Little storage pocket on the back of the seat there, that's just my folder in there. Electric window switch there, and again another cup holder. And the rear seat passengers get additional sun blinds. It's already got privacy glass on the rear side windows and the tailgate, but we get an extra little sun blind there which rolls back into the door. The seat fabric is mirrored in these little panels on the front doors and on the rear sliding doors as well. Speakers each side for the rear seat passengers. There's also ISOFIX, you may have noticed a little label there for both of these. Now then, quite a lot to tell you about these. So these seats slide forwards and backwards like that. So that gives you an idea of the two extremes in terms of the amount of adjustment available. And if we go round to the boot, again another button there for locking and unlocking while the keys are in your pocket. So that gives you an idea of the difference in space when the seats are as far forward as they will go and as far back as they will go. A little boot light down there. And then under here we have the jack, towing eye and inflation kit. I've said it in previous videos, I usually put an extra can of tyre weld in here because the fluid is often out of date when the cars arrive, and that's just an easier way of giving customers an option that can be more confident will work, as long as you've got the right type of puncture, of course. None of these cars come with a spare wheel, presumably because of a combination of cost and weight saving. Have a little look at the roof. The next thing to show about these seats is that the backs of them fold down like that and they lock down, and then as long as the seat is all the way back, we pull this I just need the seat slightly further back for me to drive this car than will allow the seat to go down like that, especially with the headrest on. But then they go down like that. Same with this one. So you can see with those seats arranged like that, that gives you a pretty decent amount of boot space, load carrying space. Also gives us a better view of the storage pocket, which we get on that side, but not on this side, unfortunately. Okay, let's take it for a little drive then, shall we? The seating position, I say this with all the boxy K cars like this, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but the seating position is really good. I suppose they are all designed to be direct competitors with each other, so it makes sense that there will be certain similarities between them. Between them, I mean this, the Spacia, the Daihatsu Tanto and the Honda N-Box. Great visibility. You sit quite far back from the windscreen, which adds to the sense of space, as does the headroom. There's a good complete hand span there. What's that? I don't know. Loads of room above your head. The seat is adjustable for height. I think I've got it towards the lower end of its range. The steering wheel is also adjustable for height, and I've got that as high as it will go. Good visibility from the mirrors. We don't have any fancy mirrors on the Spacia as we do, or on this Spacia anyway, as we do with the Tanto and the N-Box. Nonetheless, the visibility is excellent. I've never found the mirrors lacking. So to start up, I've got the key in my pocket, foot on the brake. That green light comes on the dashboard inviting you to press the start button, which I will now do. The dials do their self-check. The lady reminds us about the toll card. All the lights come on and go off as they should. I've shown you the parking brake already, so I'll just release that. And then we've got the gear display both in analog form here and digitally on the dash as well. So button in, down into drive, and away we go. That beep, by the way, all of the cars imported from Japan, they have a beep when they're in reverse, so that's why that was there. Okay, let's go. So I always try and think of the similarities and the differences between the car that I'm driving and the other car I've driven, and I think in terms of the transmission, the Suzuki, although I'm not driving particularly eagerly at the moment, the Suzuki certainly feels more eager to go to get moving than the N-Box, for example, and to some extent the Tanto, or although I would say the Tanto is more similar to the Suzuki than the N-Box is. You'll notice, or you may notice, those green markings. I pointed them out earlier when we were looking around the interior, and I said that they change colour. So they were blue when we started the engine, but now that we're just pootling along quite gently, notice that they have changed to green. Indicators on the right, and if you come and visit me and test drive a car, you may well find yourself cleaning the windscreen when you first drive it, because obviously you're used to the stalks being the other way around. Everyone does that, don't worry about it, I do it too, but you soon get used to it. Okay, so those green markings, they go sort of a light blue, and then as I really accelerate a bit harder, they go to a darker blue. Notice that that A with the circle round it, or the circular arrow round it, has come on now. That means that the start stop is active. You can see also that white battery shaped light, that when I come off the gas, that comes on. That tells you that the mild hybrid system in the car is doing regenerative braking. So it's using the slowing down of the vehicle to harvest some energy to put back into that battery for future use. There we go, the start stop is activated because I was just waiting a little while, and then as you come off the brake, starts the engine up again, and away we go. So it accelerates nicely. I've said it before, and I'll probably keep saying it with regard to CVT. The transmission and engine computers allow the engine to rev up to a point where it's at its most efficient in terms of either fuel economy or torque generated, or a balance between the two, depending on how the designers and engineers thought they wanted it. But then the revs stay there, and it's very easy to feel if you're not used to driving a CVT, or it's not really doing much, but it is doing something, because the transmission is constantly adjusting the ratio as you build speed, so you keep accelerating up even though the engine revs stay constant. So 80 kilometers per hour is about 50 miles per hour, so we're doing about 50 at the moment. I think the ride quality in this is particularly good. I've just got the right balance of feeling sporty without feeling too firm and feeling every bump in the road that you go over. That's quite important, because the roads in Japan tend to be of a better quality than what we're accustomed to in this country, although you do pay for it in terms of tolls, etc. This is the familiar cornering test roundabout, and I think the Suzuki fares very well. There's certainly not as much body roll going around a roundabout in one of these as there is in an N-box, for example. That beep was the fuel light coming on. I've probably sloshed all the fuel over to one side with my going around the roundabout multiple times. Let's stop that now. Head off this way. The sound deadening is perfectly acceptable in one of these two. You can probably tell there's some wind noise coming through into the cabin. We're doing just over 50 miles an hour now. But in terms of road noise and engine noise, I think it's pretty much spot on. I like to be able to hear the turbo just whining away there, and you certainly can do that just about at lower speeds, although maybe not when you get up to sort of motorway speeds. Will these cars do motorway speeds? Absolutely they will. If you're someone who needs to do motorway driving all day, every day, then I would propose that this probably isn't the best car for you. But that shouldn't be taken to mean, or for me, taken as me indicating that they're not capable of motorway driving that you might need to do in terms of the everyday use of your car. I feel that all of the K cars are most comfortable, if you will, at around about 60 miles an hour, but they're quite capable of doing 70 and more if you wish. The brakes feel good, steering points straight ahead, as you should jolly well expect it to, especially after it's had the wheel alignment done. Feels like there's plenty of grip from the tyres, not that I'm particularly pushing it, not that I ever particularly push it in one of these, because this isn't really the car to go pushing round corners. As always, it takes a while to get dialed into how narrow the car is, particularly if you're used, as I am, to driving wider cars. I have a van as well, so if you're used to driving that and then you get into one of these, it takes a little while to get sort of accustomed to how much extra space you have on the road, which is a real pleasure, because cars in the main seem to have become quite bloated, and roads, well, a lot of the roads I drive on anyway, haven't become bloated to match the car. So it's really nice to have a car that can fit into the full range of road sizes, carriageway sizes that we have. Now I'm accelerating uphill here. If I put it in sport, start stop turns off, and it just holds the revs a little bit higher as you're building speed, just to extract a little bit more torque from the engine. Switch off, the start stop comes back on, and the revs drop down again. So I feel that the acceleration in the Spacia in particular is really quite good for the size of engine and the size of car that we're dealing with. People sometimes ask me if these cars can accelerate enough to cope with everyday driving in the UK, and my answer to that is definitely yes. you're not buying a high performance speed machine, as I hope it is very obvious to you, but just in case. But by the same token, they're perfectly adequate, more than adequate for most of the driving around the UK that you'd expect of them. So there we go, that pretty much ends my commentary on the driving experience with the Spacia. I think some of the key things that stand out to me about this car are it feels a lot more eager than some of its peers, both in acceleration and in terms of cornering. I know they're all limited in terms of power and torque, but nonetheless the driving experience does give the impression of the car being a little bit more eager. You sit slightly lower down in one of these than you do in, say, N-Box, for example, which I quite like, which adds to that sporty feel. Might not be for everyone, but I think it works very well in this car. I also really like the looks of the Spacia, particularly with the face and the side lights. The LED side lights add to that as well. Well folks, that brings us pretty much to the end of our tour around this 2013 Suzuki Spacia Custom TS. Hope you liked it. If you liked it so much that you want to come and buy it, then obviously I would love to sell it to you. I'll put a link in the video description to the full advert on my website, and I'll also put my email address there so you can get in touch, ask any questions you might have, and make arrangements to come and see it and have a test drive if you wish. A few things to mention, I mention at the end of most videos before I go. So I'm frequently asked questions about where to get insurance. There's a link about that in the video description as well. And I'm also asked about parts availability. I offer a parts supply service. I'm bringing parts over from Japan all the time, so happy to help with that if you need help with it. I don't want you to get the impression from what I just said though that your only option for parts for these is to buy them through me, because it absolutely isn't. There are plenty of other options for you depending on what you're looking for. So yeah, just wanted to make that clear that if you buy a car like this from me, you're not tied to always getting all the parts from me, although you're welcome to if you want. Obviously, I'm not going to say no. Thank you very much for joining me today. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and I will look forward to seeing you again for the next one. Bye for now.